then we go on with the questions that we've seen already. So you can use the first question to introduce yourselves also.
So Ophélie, get ready. You'll be live in 20 seconds.
Yep. You do the presentation still, right?
No, you can start. Can start now.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this panel today. We will be talking about pay TV addressable advertising opportunities, and we have three speakers with us, three operators from European markets. So we have David Sanderson, which is the Director of AdSmart Development from Sky UK. Hello, David.
Hi.
And we have Albert-Jan Tebbe from Liberty Global, who's the Director of Advanced Advertising.
Hi, Ophélie.
Hi. And Arvils Kupris, the Chief Product Officer of Volia from Ukraine.
Hey, everybody.
So we will be focusing on this session on operator strategies and business opportunities in addressability. So what is at stake for operators entering ad markets in terms of relations with broadcasters, of revenue sharings, of technical challenges? And since our speakers are working in different markets with different level developments, we will also see that the strategies and opportunities really differ across Europe. I will invite you to ask your questions in the live discussion session. We will try to address them during the panel, or if not, at the end of our session. So for a start, why do operators enter addressability opportunities? Why go to advertising markets where it's traditionally rather broadcasters field? David, I will ask you first, as the Director of AdSmart Development, which was launched 7 years ago by Sky UK. Why did you as an operator enter this market?
Hi, everybody. I think there's two reasons. The journey to launching our addressable platform in late 2013 started 6-7 years before that. And the primary commercial reason was that Sky had a long and continues to have a long and successful presence in the linear ad market, and we take about 1/3 of the UK TV ad revenue via those means. But the fact that we did have a DTH platform that reached either everybody or nobody meant that using the addressable nature of our customer base, all 10 million customers all have an address and are umbilically linked to Sky through their monthly subscription, was a way in which we can open up access to a market that would otherwise be firmly closed, which is all of those brands that do not or don't want to ever advertise nationally. So local, regional, or niche brands, or a combination of any of those three, was a market that we were keen to get stuck into. There's also an ancillary region, which is that Sky prides itself on being a pretty effective marketeer of its own services, and it was pretty annoying if you were a subscriber to our sports service to constantly see promotions aimed at potentially new subscribers promoting sport. So using addressability to tailor our marketing to our own customer base was an important aspect as well.
Thank you. Albert, you're working for Liberty Global, and this operator is working in 6 different markets in Europe. You've already launched addressability advertising in 3 markets, so in the UK with AdSmart, with Sky, also in Ireland and in Belgium with Telenet. Can you talk to us about those markets, why you developed addressability there, and what are your next development plans?
Yes. Obviously, Sky was pioneering in this market in the UK for a long time already. So they laid the foundation of addressable TV advertising in Europe, you could say. And also at Liberty Global, we clearly saw this as an opportunity for us to generate additional incremental revenue. I think everything started in Belgium, where Telenet clearly saw an opportunity to create additional value for their broadcaster, SBS. As you know, the targeting capabilities for linear TV are quite limited if you compare those with what's already possible on online advertising. So basically, addressable TV advertising is a way to get the targeting capabilities on par with online advertising. And that's again a way to find new incremental revenues, as the linear TV revenues have been decreasing for a while, because eyeballs have shifted more and more to online TV, so online video services. And this is also the case in Ireland, where Virgin Media owns VMTV. So same kind of opportunity. Adding addressability is basically helping broadcasters to offer more advanced targeting capabilities. And in the UK, the opportunity was slightly different. Obviously, there was already Sky, and Sky, I think, was also looking for additional reach, additional inventory on other platforms. So Virgin Media in the UK clearly has a platform to offer this. And we also had a video on demand business for a long time. So we sell our own inventory to the market. And as you can imagine, the addressable TV advertising is a way to, add additional revenue to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Arvils, you're working for Volia, which is a cable legacy operator based in Ukraine. What are the addressability capacities that you assessed in this market? And what are your objectives in terms of market positioning and revenues in a market like Ukraine?
Yeah, besides the classic cable TV business, our company is also a broadcaster to some extent, owning some like 6 channels in the market, and being a distributor of some major channels here as well. So the conversation, of course, began with the conversation about incremental revenue, but it pretty quickly shifted to the possibility of monetization of the existing assets, like the catch-up, for example, which has been a struggle in other markets where I have been in Eastern Europe as well, and to how to fund that, how to improve the catch-up, and where to find the money when broadcasters have more and more appetite for the revenue besides just a classic CPS. Then the conversation goes to the more meaningful and broader partnerships with the broadcasters and our content distribution partners, because when you end up in negotiations about the CPS and you don't have a lot of matter to discuss about, then it kind of, you stand in front of a choice of the price increases or something like that. So it kind of shifted from the incremental revenue, although that's still being in the focus. And to add to that, besides the classic cable TV business, we have also the OTT service, which in this market is also an already kind of established business for other operators. And the ARPU being extremely low in this market, like 2.8 and 3 euros per month, is kind of puts everyone under the pressure, and new alternative business models is kind of obvious choice.
Okay, so yeah, as a summary, we could say that operators are going in this market to add incremental revenues from advertising to fight against contracting ARPUs or low ARPUs in the first place. But there's also a matter of developing relationship with broadcasters that you all mentioned. What are the ways that you appeal to broadcasters? David, for example, working for AdSmart, this is the only harmonized solution when it comes to TV addressability on linear broadcast in the UK. How is that a big part of your positioning when you go to broadcasters to advertise opportunities on this platform?
Well, I think the aim or the objective that we wanted to communicate to prospective broadcast partners with for AdSmart was that it was to be the sort of gold standard and the platform for addressability in the UK. And we're launched it with the fairly extensive list of Sky wholly owned channel, but very quickly added a number of third-party channels, all of whom saw that there was benefit to be had by being part of the club versus having zero access to incremental revenue by not being part of it. And reach is key. You know, we know that we have access to approximately 50% of all UK households in our partnership with Virgin alongside the Sky customer base. But within those households, we have to make sure that the AdSmartable capability is present amongst the majority of channels, or as large a number of channels as possible. And the current channel count is well in excess of 100. I think it's in excess of 130. So the argument is very much a digital-centric one for advertisers used to having run-of-network digital campaigns, to be able to say that whatever, within reason, with it, taking out a few obvious exclusions like the BBC or ITV, but eventually this will include Channel 4 in the UK, within reason, whatever any potential customer chooses to watch, they will see your ad if they're part of the very carefully selected target audience that we've both agreed should be the ones that are in receipt of it. So it's a really compelling piece, and reach is a really important part of it. So those conversations have been key to our success, and delighted that we've got so many third-party channel partners that have joined up.
Okay, thank you. Arvils, what will be your main point to attract broadcasters into working with you on addressability in OTT solutions?
So basically, that one of the cornerstones of that conversation is, to some extent, the loyal customer base, meaning that the telcos usually tend to be in relationship business model with the customers. So basically, the customers with long lifetimes and basically are addressing families, and that is to some extent appeal to broadcasters. Another thing is, of course, kind of this myth of availability of data for analytics or for micro targeting and stuff like that, which not always is actually true in case of many telcos, because of GDPR, because of other restrictions, in our case even because of technical limitations. And another thing is, which I noticed lately, is that the positioning of the company also plays a role to some extent, because some large advertisers see that our positioning in the market is similar to what they are trying to achieve, and thus they are kind of asking for strategic partnerships when we are going into the ad sales business, meaning that they see some particular area that we are focusing on, like some specific content type or genre. We don't want to be too detailed on that one. And then so some advertisers see that it makes sense to go together by using the data that we have and the broad audience. When it comes to OTT or just simple TV channels that we already have, is the pretty organic actually demand from the market. As Ukraine to some extent is unique because the advertising market is growing and it is forecasted to still continue to grow. So it is to some extent developing market, I would call it that.
Okay, thank you. So I will come back to Albert later. I think he had a minor crash with the connection. Okay, so basically opening new markets to advertisers through localization, so niche markets, and also opening them to opportunities that they would find already with digital advertising when it comes to targeting or personalization. So how do you attract the advertisers on AdSmart, David? What is the commercial strategy there to gather those new advertisers which are on smaller businesses position?
Yeah, look, that's our challenge, and it's a really fun one. And I'm pleased to say that we've been pretty successful with over 2,000 active customers, of which well over 1,000 had never used a TV before. And what unites all of them is in that first engagement, where however we get some sort of interest by whatever means, there is always that understandable prejudice that TV is big and expensive and reaches broad audiences and can't do what they want, which is to use a data-driven approach to target a very precise audience, either in terms of its demographics or its geography or both. And essentially, when we kind of knock on the door and say, hey, we're from Sky, they think, well, it's a big company, you do satellite TV, so you can't possibly have anything for me. What we're using in all instances is some sort of relevant precedent. So we've got plenty of case studies, and just sending, you know, the power of TV advertising is pretty fundamental to our success in this respect. If you send a local window business a TV commercial that has been produced and run by an equivalent business somewhere else, they will take 30 seconds to look at it and then probably ask the question, well, how's that ended up on TV? Because it's clearly discrete about a particular city or town or county. So what we've got to recognize is that from an advertising platform perspective, we represent risk to someone who knows that PPC and SEO and digital and press and print and radio works, and we need to reduce that sense of risk to the point where it presents itself as nothing other than upside and opportunity, and that's a challenge that is different from one sector to another, but precedent is the principle we adopt, and case studies and video testimonials are gold dust in that respect.
And in terms of budget, what can you tell us about the difference for local advertisers or niche advertisers? What are their capacities to do TV addressable advertising with you if compared to traditional ad campaigns?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a terribly difficult thing to put a number on. I mean, our average campaign value was £10,000. That's in the local and development team. Which is essentially all the business we do outside of the major agency hubs and some of the larger independent agencies. But actually, we've run campaigns that are in excess of £1 million, but the smallest is £3,000. That's the entry level, and it's entirely binary. You know, you will be reaching twice as many homes within a specific target audience if you spend £10,000 and if you spend £5,000. It's entirely binary. So what's good about that is we can find a sensible entry level. Our challenge in very many cases is to get people away from spending the smallest amount, because that by definition is likely to have less discernible impact than a slightly bigger campaign, but to find a sensible comfort level of a steady, significant weight of advertising, from which we can extrapolate some sort of reaction from the customer base, be that web traffic or sales or brand awareness, whatever metric we're looking to measure. And from that, they can scale upwards. So it's very much a sort of collaborative partnership we have with businesses, where we're trying to effectively say to them, look, you can level the playing field here. There are national brands that are in the market you're in, whatever that might be, law or home improvement or entertainment, and start small and grow. And it's been great seeing some brands do exactly that.
Okay, thank you. Arvils, how do you appeal to advertisers on your solutions?
So one of the things is novelty and like availability of advertising products that are not kind of available in a broad market. Like the telco catch-up is one of the examples that I would mention. Although we cannot just pop in the pre-roll and call it an ad product, of course, there's a lot of effort to be done in improving the product itself, so it doesn't damage the experience of the user. But one of the things that David already mentioned before and that we are using extensively is the large screen or the viewing of the telco grade TV service is somewhat different experience and different attention from the viewer when you are comparing that to other types of advertising, not trying to point finger at digital ads or something like that, but still, so the TV organically has more focus from the viewer, if I can say something like that.
Yeah,
So
like
this,
trustability.
yeah, exactly. So if you, and there have been many studies that show that the attention when you are watching large screen at home is not comparable to what you have on auto-played advert somewhere in between gazillion other videos that you are watching every day. So those are the main things. Addressability comes as a natural demand from the advertisers already from the day one. So they are assuming that we can address that we are able to give them ability to target at least on a regional level.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if I could
Okay.
just chip in, just to echo Arvil's point. Yeah, I think brand safety is a big message that NBC Universal, Comcast, and Sky push very strongly with all of our customers around the world. And it's a pretty easy conversation to have with a business that is understandably wedded to digital marketing. You know, it's fantastically effective, but in many cases, you do not have a real idea of what context or what content your ad is appearing. And we're able to guarantee 100% brand safety across all of our platforms and our third-party channel partners platform. And I think that's a question mark that a lot of advertisers either overtly or secretly have, and it's an important one to be able to address.
Mm-hmm. Albert, I wanted to go back also on the part regarding relationship between operators and broadcasters when it comes to addressability. You mentioned earlier in the discussion that you developed these opportunities on markets where Liberty Global is already partnering with broadcasters, like in Belgium and Ireland. How does that affect the development plans that you have, and how will you work in markets where Liberty Global does not have that advantage to work very closely with broadcasters already?
Yeah, obviously in the UK we don't own a broadcaster, and I think we work fantastically well together with Sky Media. So there's definitely no worries about that, and I expect in the future we will work together with more broadcasters. As with regards to any plans, we're planning to obviously expand in other territories, and one of the first to be added, I think, will be Switzerland, where UPC Switzerland, which is part of Liberty Global, reached an agreement together with lots of other operators with the relevant broadcasters. And as you know, Switzerland is a country with multiple languages and dominated by lots of partners from neighbor countries like Germany, Italy, and France. And they reached an agreement to start doing addressable TV advertising, you know, pre-rolls and a form of mid-rolls within replay content, as well as the maybe not new, but relatively innovative pause ads, so-called pause ads, which already exist in Belgium, for example, and in a number of other territories, not on our platform, but other platforms like Hulu. And basically it works like this. When you press pause, a few seconds after, you get to see a billboard, which obviously shows a brand message. And those kinds of innovative products we're also looking at to introduce into to other countries. And I think addressable advertising is a way to actually strengthen the relationship with broadcasters, which are you know, a natural, I wouldn't say competitor, but there's always a bit of a competitive tension between broadcasters and operators, as broadcasters want to get the, you know, the highest content fees for their content. And obviously, we as a platform want the opposite. We want to buy cheap and sell sell expensive, so to say. addressable TV advertising is a way, or actually forces you to cooperate with each other, because you need to deliver that campaign to the viewer, and it requires very complex integrations, but also working together on an operational level, because in the whole supply chain, lots of things can go wrong, and then obviously it's important to have a close relationship.
So how did that actually affect your relationship as an operator to advertisers now that you are working closely with them as well as broadcasters?
Not, I would say. So we weren't dealing with the advertisers directly.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. So we are not planning to change the ecosystem. Basically, our role is to support the broadcasters in making things happen in terms of targeting and delivering addressable TV advertising.
Okay, so it's a different approach than AdSmart in that regard, I would say. But
Yeah,
still,
but obviously the big difference between AdSmart and Virgin Media in this case in the UK is that obviously Sky owns a broadcaster. Sky Media is the broadcaster in the UK, like we have SBS in Belgium and Virgin Media TV in Ireland. And maybe Ireland is an interesting case because also in Ireland we cooperate together with Sky AdSmart, specifically on the technology area. But unlike the UK, VMTV is selling their own addressable TV advertising. And we're actually delivering campaigns on both our networks. So VMTV is delivering campaigns, addressable campaigns on the VM network, obviously, but also on the Sky platform. And Sky does the same with, on the Sky channels.
okay, so the idea is really to create a new ecosystem for addressability where pay TV operators are adequate or even essential partners for all stakeholders.
Exactly.
Now, if we go on the technical and regulatory challenges, how do you define first the KPI that you target audiences with? So I would start maybe with David, and if you could also tell us how this granularity evolved over the 7 years that you've been operating with AdSmart.
Well, I'll start with the granularity point. So when we kicked off, we had around about 300 different targeting options, the most significant of which was, and still is, Experian's Mosaic database, which compartmentalizes all UK households into either one of 15 groups or 66 types, and advertising community loves that. And then we've supplemented that with a whole raft of different targeting options that have taken the lead from the digital players in terms of what the market's clearly shown an interest in. So that might be financial profile, home ownership, whether or not people are owners and operators or directors of companies. That's a pretty valuable one. And we continue to refine and enhance all of the targeting options that we have. People's proximity to a home move is pretty important to us. And I don't think that job is never going to end. We continually find ways of helping advertisers not just target the potential audiences that matter, but more importantly, exclude the audiences that definitely don't matter. In terms of sort of technical development, I should point out, not a technologist. Thankfully, we have people far more capable than me within Sky to work on that. But I think there's sort of technical aspects of the platform that we do go out of our way to communicate as a material point of difference between this digital marketing platform that happens to be addressable TV versus other digital marketing, digital marketing platforms, is about viewability. So when an AdSmart ad, or when a client's ad is served via AdSmart into whatever content that particular household is watching, either live or as live if they've recorded it and catching up. Once that ad plays, the system will not and cannot register it as an impression until you've got 75% of the way through that ad. And that is a very, very significant difference against other digital video platforms. So in the case of a 30-second ad, which the vast majority of our clients run, that means no risk of being charged until you've got through second 22. So you pretty much see all the ad, and actually once you get that far, the data suggests that 90+% of all viewers do complete that view. So the quality of view, the technology to deliver a quality, high quality view in content that we know is brand safe is a very material technical difference between that and other video ad platforms. The fact that it's also, I mean, there's obvious points that we think we've been a bit remiss on communicating, and Arvils touched on this, but you know, big screen advertising is significant as opposed to squinting at a little screen that might be peripheral to the content you're really there for. And it's worth noting that the technical advances in flat screen technology in terms of quality, size and cost means that people are replacing their TVs on a much more frequent basis, and the average size of a TV is getting bigger and bigger exponentially every year. So for an advertiser, that's great. You know, bigger is genuinely better.
I guess for a broadcaster too, as it allows you to increase prices potentially.
Arvils, can you tell us what Volia is doing already in terms of targeting, and what do you see also from your partners would be interesting in developing in terms of KPI that you can track?
Yeah, so I'm making notes as David and Albert speaks. So I'm taking away a lot of points actually to integrate that in our future strategies. What I see right now and what have been done already before by our company is pretty simple geographical targeting, which is regional based advertising, which is not always economically feasible actually for advertisers to the extent that we have done it before. So we are readdressing that once again. Another type of targeting, if I can call it that way, is content targeting most likely. So when the specific content is on air, then particular advertisers are interested in that. That kind of brings us to the point that specific events are worth being sold to advertisers as inventory. We still have plenty to do in technical terms to improve our platforms and its responsibility, because our ability to measure, our ability to have that direct and immediate feedback is not always there, because our company has grown through the acquisitions of other companies, and you have this not unified network, let's call it that way. So there is still technical challenges to overcome before we can talk about meaningful targeting. So we are kind of working around with what we have already. And another thing to mention is when we touch upon the multi-screen or OTT platforms, then the good part is that investments are still done in development. So basically saying we can include advertising as part of requirements when we are developing some technical platforms. And that's something that I'm doing. And that's why I'm making notes as David and Albert speak.
Referring also to content targeting, is this something that you use to make sure, for example, who is behind the screen? Because we're still talking about multicast environment. So when you're referring to a whole household, you might know where they are, and you might know some details about the family, but who is behind the screen really at this moment? Is it something that you can do with the targeting you developed already, David, for example, or Albert?
Yeah, it is, and it's a question that a lot of advertisers ask when they get their head around how we select households. They very quickly then segue into the question: well, if I'm selling financial services or cars that might have a male bias, or if I'm selling products with a female bias, how do I know that the teenage kids aren't sitting in front of the TV and seeing the ad that I've paid a full rate for? And the way we get around that, because to ensure that we do not and never will breach GDPR regulations, we're only targeting at a household level. But once we deliver the ad, one of the factors to determine whether it will play in that particular ad break as the linear view allows is to the system essentially just checks what the natural linear bias would be for that particular piece of content. So if it has a particular bias towards 16 to 34s, then it will not play ad copy that outside of its complex, very granular AdSmart targeting will be linked to the nearest linear audience. So that might be upmarket men, it might be upmarket women, it might be housewives with children, whatever it is, they'll check that there is a natural fit between what's being watched and that broader linear audience. So it's wherever possible, we're avoiding the risk of the ad that's been delivered to the right household being seen by the wrong member of that household.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will also like to go back on something that Arvils mentioned regarding the diversity of network that you have to work with and the difficulty it creates when it comes to creating a harmonized solution for addressability. Albert, you're working on markets with very different legacy equipment for Liberty Global. How is that? How do you address the challenge when you have such different set-top box environment in various markets?
Yeah, in terms of set-top boxes, we basically focus on our latest product called Horizon 4. So we only develop for the Horizon 4 product, and obviously in the past, also for different legacy set-top boxes have been developed as well. So, for example, in Belgium we have a set-top box platform called Cipadan. In the UK we still have TiVo, which also runs the current solution. So something's up and running, but looking into the future, everything we develop now is developed for the Horizon 4 platform. So we try to harmonize that across multiple territories, but that's very, very challenging because we experience that each market has its own, differences, customizations because of measurement, for example, because of the specific ad type broadcasters want to serve. This creates lots of customizations, which makes it difficult to, just to roll out a blueprint platform across multiple territories. Creates lots of work, and I think future-wise, standardization is very important. So we're looking into how we can standardize things as much as possible, because I think the whole market will benefit from it. So, yeah. For example, for broadcast TV, you don't have such a thing like VAST for online advertising, which basically defines a lot of different interfaces and protocols. And I think we should work towards a situation for broadcast TV where this is effectively the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now we can also talk briefly about data protection and anonymity when it comes to targeting. That's also a big topic there. So Albert, how is data protection and anonymity of viewers guaranteed, and how does that work also with the GDPR in regards to multicast broadcasting?
Yeah, so all of our customers either have an opt-in or opt-out GDPR compliant consent. So basically, depending on the history with the client, there is already an opt-in, which works for using for targeted advertising, and any new customer needs to actively opt in according to the GDPR regulation. And the way we're trying to guarantee the privacy of the customer is to blindly match the set-top box ideas with targeting attributes. We work with an external company called Experian in the UK, for example. They do the blind matching and make it part of a bigger data set. And at the same time, the set-top box ideas are being refreshed on a frequent basis to guarantee the anonymity of the people behind the set-top box. Mm-hmm. So this is the way how we deal with that. And as David already mentioned, part of the targeting is also prescriptive. So for example, we're not sharing any viewing data from our platform with external partners like Sky or any other. but the broadcast schedule can obviously be used to, you know, to check if there is any bias for a certain, you know, segment. So if programs are predominantly being watched by young people or females, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Arvils, how is the market in Ukraine for that? Because GDPR doesn't apply yet.
Yeah, it's worth to mention that I originally come from the market, from the EU market, from the Baltics, where GDPR is applying. So, and Ukraine is somewhat very active market at the moment, both from the business development and from regulation development as well. So, and there is some part of uncertainty, what will be next, well, what will be coming next. So to be on a safe side, I'm taking the similar approach that Albert mentioned, and I'm kind of assuming that GDPR is there, so I don't end up with the need in the future to change things, because I think that GDPR is not only the geographical limitation which it has been designed for, but it is already kind of the shift in minds of consumers all over the world that kind of demands some cornerstones of data privacy. So we are keeping that in mind already from the day one, that it might happen in Ukraine also.
Mm-hmm. And I have an extra question for Albert. You mentioned the fact that you're working in an environment with many different networks, and you're also working with third-party datasets providers. How does that affect the harmonization of datasets that you can provide to advertisers? So, for example, is the KPI that one advertiser is interested in the same across all the markets, or do you also have to harmonize that and work on this field as well?
No, it's different in every market. So in every market we work with different partners. For the UK and Ireland, it's the same partner. It's Experian, and obviously we work together with Sky AdSmart. So we basically want to align the targeting segments with Sky, basically to make it as easy as possible for not for broadcasters, for advertisers. Obviously, I think that's very important. In other markets, it's up for discussion. So we would have a partner we work with, basically to match the set-top box ideas with targeting attributes. But basically, every broadcaster is welcome to add their own data set to the mix. So if a broadcaster has a rich data set and wants to, you know, to use this because it will give them a competitive advantage or a more granular way of targeting households effectively, then they are welcome to add it to the mix, and we will do the matching in an anonymous way.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, it does. Okay. Does anyone else want to add something on that, on like complexity of maintaining granularity in a harmonized environment? Maybe David, if more on the commercial side.
Yeah, look, I think we've had some interesting experiences of where we've used customer data. In the vast majority of instances, we can use the existing, what we refer to as sort of off-the-shelf data sets that we've acquired through Experian, as Albert said, and others, to get a good fit. But in some cases, that doesn't do the job. So, for example, if you're an insurance business and you have a data set of people to whom you've offered quotes and they didn't take them up, or had a policy that has lapsed, those are pretty difficult data sets to mirror in anything other than from the original source. So we can onboard that data. There's a few prerequisites on minimum data sizes and minimum spends to make the whole effort worthwhile, but that helps businesses use the power of TV to re-engage with either previous or lapsed customers who otherwise they wouldn't have that option to do. So that's been again a particularly productive use of complex data for us.
Okay. So I think we're coming to the end of the session. I thank you all three for joining us today. So David from the UK, from Sky, Arvils from Volia, based in Ukraine, and Albert, based in the Netherlands for Liberty Global. We will find you in 1 hour for OTT delivery and the potential of Apple TV, the next webinar, and have a good lunch until then. Thank you for
Thanks, everybody.
joining.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye
Thank you
bye.
very
Bye.
much. Cheers.